Alright, welcome to my World Cup preview series. This is the final team of Group G. We're talking about North Korea, the big unknown team of the group of death. They're in with Brazil, Ivory Coast, and Portugal. It seems a complete mission impossible for this team. North Korea have been are here for the first time since a very long time. The last time there was a World Cup was in 1966, actually. And surprisingly, they did actually make it out of the group phase back then. They lost against the Soviet Union, drew against Chile, and beat Italy to reach the quarterfinals. But they lost 5-3 against Portugal. I believe they were 3-0 up in that game, actually. Then Eusebio for Portugal turned it all around. But the one time they weren't the World Cup, that did surprise everybody. It was by far the best performance of an Asian team we have seen, actually up until 2002 when South Korea reached the semis. But actually that was in England. So up to date, that's still the best Asian performance we've seen at a World Cup of North Korea. So, but they're really up against it this time. In qualifying, they drew with South Korea, lost away from home 1-0, so it was quite close, those games. So looking at that, they did okay. In friendlies recently, they lost 2-1 to Mexico. They drew 0-0 with South Africa, lost 1-0 against Paraguay, drew 2-2 against Greece, and lost 3-1 against Nigeria. So played against respectable teams. And although they managed 2 draws and 3 quite narrow losses, they didn't completely get outplayed. So I'm sure they'll be able to make a respectable impression at least. But against Brazil, Portugal, and Ivory Coast, they could lose everything big. I'm not sure what the consequence of the players are going to be when they get back in North Korea, but it's not looking good. In fact, looking at the team, I hardly know anything about it. I think they play mostly defensively. They didn't score a whole lot of goals in their qualifying. Pretty much all players play in North Korea except for 3 players. 2 of them, one midfielder, An Kyung-hak, plays in Japan. The striker Young Tae-se plays for Kawasaki Frontale, also in Japan. And Hong Yong-yo, the captain and striker, plays for Rostov in Russia. Those are the main players. The rest all play in North Korea. I don't even know the players playing in Japan and Russia, let alone the other guys. But I did see the game South Korea against North Korea accidentally. And they had a few chances, but South Korea overall was the better team, as you would expect. But South Korea might be able to surprise people at the World Cup of North Korea. It seems very unlikely. But who knows? They're really up against it. I would seriously be surprised if they get even a draw from any of the games. Some interesting stuff going on, though. Of course, North Korea is a very isolated country. With some strange leaders. And for example, North Koreans are not able to travel to South Africa. And I read a story at some point that actually North Korea was going to pay Chinese people to go to South Africa, dress up as North Koreans, and cheer for the North Korean team. So they wouldn't actually allow their own citizens to go to South Africa, but they would pay Chinese people to go there. Well, if they would pay me, I will dress up as a North Korean fan and cheer them on, no problem. So, but that's quite interesting. Another interesting thing that happened actually was when North Korea in qualifying played South Korea at home. The North Korean Football Association decided that the South Korean, because of course the 2 countries are still in a state of war officially. There's a truce, but there's still a war, of course, going on from the Korean War. And they decided that the South Korean flag will not be present in the stadium, nor will the South Korean national anthem be allowed to play. Now they said this beforehand, so South Korea was of course protested against it, and then FIFA decided to compromise, and the game was actually played in China. So some interesting stuff. Actually, that's not all. Also, you know how every team has 3 goalkeepers they can put in their 23-man squad. Well, the North Koreans thought they'd be smart. They had a striker, Kim Myung-won, who they put in the squad. He's actually a striker, but they put him in the squad as one of the goalkeepers. They thought, well, if we just tell FIFA that there is a goalkeeper, you know, once he's in the squad, we can put him wherever we want, of course, on the pitch. But actually, FIFA said, no, if you put him in your squad as a goalkeeper, he can only play as a goalkeeper and not as a striker. So now they have a striker in their squad that can only play as a goalkeeper. So then they don't have an actual 3rd goalkeeper. Yeah, they thought they'd be smart and, you know, with the rules and all, but it has come back to bite them in the ass. But I don't think the 3rd goalkeeper is going to have much of a role for North Korea to play. But, yeah, I always like it when these unknown countries show up at the World Cup. It's always something different, something new. But I don't expect them to do anything, especially not in this group. I mean, they're unlucky. I mean, if they're in the group of New Zealand, maybe they can get a draw or something, you know, against teams like Slovenia or Slovakia. But in this group, I would expect them to lose all 3 games. But it'll be interesting to see what North Korea is going to be all about. But anyway, that's it for my analysis of North Korea. Thanks for listening. We'll do the final prediction video next.